Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
Krishnamurti to Himself is a book based on the spoken diary of 20th century Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti. It discusses psychological, social and spiritual issues he addressed throughout his long career and contains some excellent snippets of perspective that are worthy of complementing a Stoic practice. For example, on the topic of death, which the Stoics addressed extensively, Krishnamurti says the following, quote, "As you teach children mathematics, writing, reading, and all the business of acquiring knowledge, they should also be taught the great dignity of death, not as a morbid, unhappy thing that one has to face eventually, but as something of daily life. The daily life of looking at the blue sky and the grasshopper on a leaf. We spend our days in such varieties of conflict and unhappiness, with some joy and pleasure, drinking, smoking, late nights and work. And at the end of one's life, one faces that thing called death and is frightened of it. One thinks it can always be understood, felt deeply. The child with his curiosity can be helped to understand that death is not merely the wasting of the body through disease, old age, and some unexpected accident, but that the ending of every day is also the ending of oneself every day." End quote. Krishnamurti's sentiment here aligns with the Stoic philosopher Seneca's advice that we should make ready for death before we make ready for life. In other words, freedom from the fear of death also frees us from many of our fears in life, in that our mortality tends to drive a lot of those fears. In a letter to his friend Lucilius, Seneca encapsulated his daily approach in 4 short sentences. Quote, "I'm endeavouring to live every day as if it were a complete life. I do not indeed snatch it up as if it were my last. I do regard it, however, as if it might even be my last. The present letter is written to you with this in mind, as if death were about to call me away in the very act of writing. I am ready to depart, and I shall enjoy life just because I am not over-anxious as to the future date of my departure." End quote. So rather than feel fear over that fateful future flight we all face, maybe we can give ourselves the more manageable task of concentrating on the current day and endeavouring to live it as a complete life. And if the ending of every day is also the ending of ourselves every day, then every new day we wake up to is a beginning for ourselves, the beginning of another complete life. In Gates of Fire, Stephen Pressfield's fictional novel recounting the Battle of Thermopylae, we're told of a simple, sobering method the Spartan warriors used to identify the survivors of battles and consequently those less fortunate. Every warrior would carve his name on each end of a twig and break it in the middle. He would tie one half around his left wrist and wear it into battle, while the other half, his ticket, would be deposited into a basket. Upon the conclusion of the battle, surviving warriors would retrieve their tickets. The unclaimed tickets in the basket at the end of this process would then identify the slain. Following an early victory in the novel, the Spartan king Leonidas addresses his army and explains the significance of their ticket reunions. When a man joins the 2 pieces of his ticket and sees them weld in union together, he feels that part of him, the part that knows love and mercy and compassion, come flooding back over him. This is what unstrings his knees. It might sound dramatic, but in some ways we collect our own tickets when we wake up each morning. We come to the realization that we're still here, that another day has been entrusted to our possession, that another complete life lies ahead of us, that we can fulfill our potential for love and mercy and compassion. Leonidas goes on to summarize the gratitude that comes over a surviving warrior after a battle. And again, they are words we could say directly to ourselves each morning. Quote, "What else can a man feel at that moment than the most grave and profound thanksgiving to the gods, who, for reasons unknowable, have spared his life this day? Tomorrow their whim may alter, next week, next year, but this day the sun still shines upon him. He feels its warmth upon his shoulders. He beholds about him the faces of his comrades, whom he loves, and he rejoices in their deliverance and his own. So let's give thanks for our own victories each morning. We've made it to this point, which means we've survived all of our toughest battles. The gods have spared us today, but may not be so kind tomorrow. Let's make the most of the fact that the sun still shines upon us, and that we have time today to show love to everyone else who has been spared.